I don't know if you knew it, but it seems that Argentina does not have a strong tradition of gaming. It seems that it's even hard to find Settlers of Catan down there. So I was really impressed when I heard that there was an Argentinian publisher that was going to publish a war game, skipping the Eurogame phase entirely. Wow, that's brave. Also, wow, imagine that the experiment works and you start having a tradition of war games down there, then you have a country that only has war games and not Eurogames. I know many people would want to relocate there. However, I just knew that I had to try this game, which is Panzer the first Argentinian war game and one of the very first Argentinian games of all times. Pretty impressive. It is set in World War II. For two players, a player is the Allied player, the other player is going to be the German player. So I was very excited about this game, but as I started playing it, I started having extremely mixed feelings about it. And in the end, I realized that, alas, they did not skip the Eurogame phase. They just incorporated it in here because this is a very abstract game. It is so simple that many times as you're playing it, you don't really get the sense that you're playing a war game. So if you are an experienced war gamer watching this review, especially if you call yourself using a French nickname, well, be advised, what you see here may not please you, may even disturb you, but you have been warned. Let's start from the two components of the game that have a linguistic element. One is the rulebook, which is in Spanish, but it also comes with photocopies of the English translation, and the rules are extremely short, extremely simple. It's only 6 pages, and as you can see, there's almost no text in these 6 pages. It's mainly illustrations and examples. I really believe that without illustrations, this rulebook would literally be 1 page or a page and a half. Then you have 2 decks of cards, one for each player. These cards are originally in Spanish, as you can still see from the title there, but they come with several sheets of adhesive translations in English, so you have to cut those translations and then you attach them on each card. This is why you can see that the cards now look like in English, but if you look closely, you can see that I just attached the translation on them. It's more convenient. It's a little bit of a chore the first time that you have to prepare the deck, but it is doable. These cards can be played in different moments during the game. They give you special advantages, special reinforcements, special attacks, defenses. They slow down the enemy. The typical effects that you would expect in a card-enhanced game. In fact, this is not a card-driven game. Theoretically, you could play the entire game without ever playing a card. I don't know if it would be very smart because some of these are very good, but I'm just saying that in terms of mechanics, the cards are not strictly necessary to the game. This is the map for the game, which is a mounted map, so that is a good thing. It kind of looks cute. It looks like an early map for Settlers of Catan to me. The map is divided in 2 halves, one belonging to the German player and one belonging to the Allied player. At the beginning of the game, each player sets up all of his units on his half of the map. And each player has more than 60 units, so actually that's gonna take a little bit of time. However, it is free setup. That means it's not just a mechanical chore. You can try different combinations and different setups each time. So it becomes a pre-game rather than just, homework that you have to do before you start playing. Each side of the map shows 8 special X's, which are red for the German player and yellow for the Allied player. In these X's, the player will set up special units that only have a defensive value, and these X's and those units represent command posts. So the aim of the game is to take control of the opponent's command posts. If you take control of 4 command posts of your opponent, then you win the game. But no matter how cute the map looks, I have to disclose something quite sad about it. I already know that wargamers will be annoyed at this. I know it because every time I explain the game to somebody, they looked at me like I am some sort of criminal or I'm committing hate crimes. But hey, I'm just a messenger. I didn't design the thing. So here is the thing. This map that you see here with all of these nice terrain features actually has no rules about terrain. The only terrain feature that matters in any way in the game is this river here that can be crossed only at the bridges. Otherwise, every exit you see on the map has the same functionality, which is no modifiers for combat and no modifiers for movement. Moving through any type of X costs 1 movement point, and that is it. Moving through a road in clear terrain, or moving in a forest without roads, or in a city, same thing. Defending in clear terrain or defending in a forest, same thing. There are no modifiers whatsoever. As you can imagine, this makes the game extremely abstract. It is like playing a war game on a chessboard. And, well, I just know that war gamers don't really like that. It does detract quite a lot from the experience, or at least it just makes it feel like you're not exactly playing a war game. Just because seeing those units that are floating in this empty blank space somehow doesn't feel right. The counters represent different types of units. You have infantry, tanks, artillery, airplanes. Counters are, I think, good looking. I like the illustrations. However, they're a little thin. Actually, sometimes the illustrations, you can see they seem a little cut out from the counter itself. Each counter has 3 relevant pieces of information, which are attack, defense, and movement. During a turn, you can activate 10 of your units before the game goes to the other player. So actually turns can be a little long while you're sitting there and waiting for the other player to activate 10 units. Each time that you activate a unit, you will spend a point of supply. You record those points of supply using these markers here. Again, looking a little thin. And you have no supplies left, well, no activations. Some units will, for example, infantry actually activates for free if it's only moving, because regular activation, the one that costs 1 point of supply, will allow you to activate a unit for movement and or combat in any order. Movement and then combat, combat and then movement. Suppose, for example, I am the German player, I spend a point of supply to activate this unit, then I can move it up to 4 axes. I do 1, 2, now I am adjacent to an enemy, I decide to end my movement there, and I execute combat. Combat is extremely simple. The attacker rolls a number of dice equal to the attack value of that unit. In that case, the German player would roll 5 dice, and the defender rolls a number of dice equal to the defense value. In that case, that infantry unit is going to have a hard time because can roll only 1 die. However, the players can also request artillery support. Artillery units have a small number there written under their attack value, which is the range, and they can land support in attack or defense up to that range. Suppose, for example, that in this case the German player wants some support from that artillery, then the artillery is in range to attack the same unit that is being attacked here, so the artillery unit can lend support in that fight. The German player has to spend an extra supply point to activate that unit, but if that unit is activated for support, then the attack value is added to the number of dice that is rolled regularly. So in this case, the German player would be rolling 6 dice, because 5 plus 1, and spending 2 points of supply, and the poor ally player is still rolling only 1 die. Let's see what will happen. I don't think things are gonna go very well for the ally player. Once you roll the dice, then you do not add to get the results. You just look for the single highest result. In this case, it is a 6 versus a 5. Well, the player with the single highest result is the winner. In this case, the German player is the winner. If there is a tie, suppose that this was the case, then you just, well, you eliminate the tie dice and you look for the next highest result. In this case, the ally player has no other dice, so it is a 0, and in this case, then the German player is the winner. If the attacker wins a combat, then the defending unit is eliminated from the board. It is that simple. If the defender wins the combat, then nothing happens. Both the attacker and the defender remain there. So actually, it is a game that puts some pressure on you in terms of attacking. You really feel that you have to do it. There are many other things to do on the board, really. The game has no stacking. That means that you cannot end your movement with a unit in the same X as another unit is. The exception is airplanes, because airplanes are flying over the head of land units, so actually they can end their movement on top of other units. Also, as you can see, airplanes have two factors in attack. One, the one on top is used for air-to-air combat, and the other one at the bottom is used for air-to-ground combat. So if you end the movement of an airplane unit adjacent to another airplane unit, then you use air-to-air and you can attack, or if you end the movement on top of a land unit, then you can use the air-to-ground combat factor to attack that land unit. Units also have a value written here on the right side, and that is the cost of the unit in terms of supplies. It is how many supply points the player has to pay if he wants to bring back that unit in the game. Remember, all units start the game on the board already, but if they are eliminated, then the player at the end of the turn can pay that cost in supplies and can bring the unit back into the game. Now, some of these units are very expensive, so the only way to have enough supply points in your pool to pay to bring them back in the game is by withdrawing some of the units. At the end of the turn, in fact, you can also withdraw units from the board, and units that you withdraw that way cannot re-enter the game unless then you pay for them, but they generate half of their cost in terms of supply points. So actually this guy, for example, will generate 19 points, which is pretty good. This guy would generate 39 points. So if you eliminate some of these units, then you're able to bring back other units. So it is good that there's a little bit of flexibility there in the way in which you can keep some units on the board and bring back some other units and convert some units into supplies and therefore resources. In the end, this is a very simple, basic, linear game. So simple, so linear and basic that once you're playing it, you don't often have the feel that you're really playing a war game. What strikes you is how many things are not there that you would expect to be there from a game that is about war. You do not have terrain rules or modifiers. That's huge. It changes your experience of the game completely. No outflanking, soak off, multiple units attack, no encirclement, zones of control. It is just move, attack, attack, move. Occasionally you play a card, you withdraw units so you can bring back more units, but then what do you do with those units? Attack more, move more, attack more. You don't feel you're trying to be a Rommel and developing some complex and deep strategy. When I play this game, I feel more like Hulk smash, because I feel that that's really the majority of what you can do here. Bring people out, destroy everything you encounter on your path, and keep doing that until you win. And maybe the other player will destroy more stuff, and then the other player will win. This game, according to the box, is supposed to be for players that are 13-year-old or older. Actually, I would have a hard time recommending it to anybody who is more than 10-year-old or anybody who is not planning to play with a 10-year-old or younger, because I think that kids these days, when they're 11, they can already play something more complex, something that has, for example, terrain incorporated in the rules. So it is also hard to recommend this game as an entryway war game, just because there's so many entryway war games out there these days that are perfectly approachable if you're a non-war gamer, and yet have enough meat for the war gamer to sink his teeth in. And this one really doesn't. It feels like it's a war game for kids that does not really double as a war game for adults or for mature war gamers. And this is really my bottom line, my final definition of the game. This is a war game for young kids. If you're one, or if you're planning to play this game with one, then Panzer is an option. Otherwise, I think you may have to look for something else somewhere else.